Britain's facing shortages of frozen meals and even Christmas turkey due to a sudden shortage of, wait for it, carbon dioxide. It's used by the food and drink industry. A sharp rise in global gas prices has meant two large fertiliser plants in Teesside and Cheshire, which produce CO2 as a byproduct, have shut. The Business Secretary, Kwasi Kwarteng, had meetings with industry leaders over the shortages on Saturday and insisted that there was, and I quote, no cause for immediate concern. But along come the food industry bosses warning that the problem is potentially a national security issue and it needs to be dealt with urgently. Delighted to be joined now by Rob Cockrell, who's Global Managing Editor of Gas World magazine. Park CO2 and the food industry just there for a moment, if you'd be so kind. First of all, why are we where we are with gas supplies? Because we talked yesterday about prices, we talked about the implications for industry, CO2 in just a moment. Why are we where we are on prices?
Good afternoon, Alistair. In terms of those prices, we don't actually cover the energy markets and the natural gas markets, so much of your discussion yesterday may have been of more benefit. What I can say is I understand it's due to an increase in global demand, and there's been a few significant plants that have been down for maintenance in recent weeks and months. And it's at that time of year where countries and nations are looking to step up their supplies and rebuild for the winter months. So we've got this huge pull on natural gas at the moment, and that's leading to those escalating prices.
Yeah. I mean, people at home should be thinking that these are such huge industries, whether it's the gas energy prime sources or the CO2 byproduct and what have you. That industries like that and markets like this should function adequately so that they don't have to worry about whether they're going to be able to get frozen peas or turkey. I mean, how's it been allowed to get to that point?
Well, I think you'd have to speak to people of far more eminent and of more influence than myself. Clearly, it's part of our energy strategy, not just for the UK, but for Europe and the world. I mean, we have to respect and understand, I think, that our whole economic tree is so rooted in fossil fuels and hydrocarbons, and almost every branch of life and product that we use is a derivative on some level. So when you do have this kind of surge in demand and these soaring prices, you have to expect the knock-on effects are going to trickle out, across various economies and industries.
Is it also possible that we've got to that point? We were talking earlier on in the programme about COP26 and global warming and that big event taking place, that the shift or the attempt to shift away from gas, which you write about, but hydrocarbons generally, that people are attempting to do it too quickly without having the other things in a row that will take its place if and when they are successful.
There's certainly one argument. I think if we, take my analogy a moment ago about the kind of global economic tree and how rooted that is in hydrocarbons, clearly we have to have a pragmatic approach to clean energies and the whole energies transition. We can't expect to do that overnight. As I said, there's so many products in our life and society and so many industrial sectors that rely on fossil fuels or their derivatives. So, yeah, pragmatic approach we have to have. We can't do that overnight. Having said that, for all of the the headlines and the good numbers that often come out of nations, and I think we see this in the UK as well, that does need to be backed up by firm action and investment. We certainly need that. And it's about understanding the circular economies, because when you do more of those clean energies in play, you also have the byproducts that you can make out of that. So if you take biomass and that renewable energy, you can get a stream of CO2 from that. And whilst marginal compared to our current CO2 supply chain, there's incremental supply that could continue to go into the system there and help in these scenarios.
I mean, it's also tricky in the sense that it clearly abuts onto diplomacy and geopolitics. And we know because of the Russian pipeline story, which again we reported on yesterday, there's a degree of finessing that needs to be done between countries, let alone between big companies, that you report on in your magazine.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's why. I mean, you mentioned Kwasi Kwarteng. We've all seen the same reports of these meetings that are taking place between government officials and various industries, as you've mentioned. And I think we have to have good faith that we'll see some outcomes from those that will prevent any crises in the run up to Christmas, as you said.
Yeah. Final point. It's global. You're the global managing editor of Gas World. When you look at these other countries, particularly in the Middle East, whose economies are so dependent upon that one product, that one raw material, as it were, for which the rest of the world is trying to reduce its demand, how clever are they being in preparing their economies for a new world? Because I was chatting to someone the other day who said to me, of course, the Qataris are doing brilliantly because they're just buying the UK.
I certainly couldn't comment on such a simplistic level myself. As you said, there's a lot of diplomacy and geopolitical elements to this. However, there is a lot going on in those regions, like the Middle East and other parts of the world, where they are deleveraging from fossil fuels, and quite successfully. They are investing in their tourism sectors and their banking sectors and other industries and kind of blue chip areas as well. So, yeah, there's certainly a decoupling going on, and we do see a lot of progress with clean energies in those regions as well.
Sure. Rob Cockrell, great to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed for finding time for us this Sunday afternoon.